Hi there. In the last episode, we worked on the UI and I ended the stream with a bug that resulted in the text flickering from frame to frame. Um, since then, I've done a bit of debugging and uh, I uh, kind of like thought it would relate to something memory wise, and surely it did. It turns out that whenever you use an unordered map, the ordering of the map, or rather yeah, the order of the objects might change, even though uh, we aren't recreating the maps. We are kind of like moving them so that we store the old state and the new state, and we move the new state to the old state whenever we're done. Um, and we want to calculate our rendering data. Um, but yeah, that results in sometimes that the map gets reordered since it's unordered, even though you might move the objects. Uh, there's no guarantee that the underlying memory layout is preserved. So therefore, I swap to a map. The ordering in a map is supposed to be ordered. Yeah. So that's basically it. Yeah. Um, and just for good measure, I'll show the result where you can see the text stopped flickering around. I also realized that instead of doing blending, we could actually do some pixel discarding in our shader. We might actually change to that way of rendering since it's more efficient. Um, so we would simply disable whatever blend state we implemented here, and instead in our UI renderer in the pixel shader step we would do something like I think it's called clip, and we simply check the alpha if it's close to or less than 0. Then we simply do not draw the pixel. Yeah, so that's a way of kind of like optimizing that. Let's just clean up this code here. Implement based method instead of blending in the future. Clip. Hello, welcome. It would be something like uh, something like this. But right now we won't change it. And anyway, it kind of like taught us a bit about blending, where we actually simply transfer the alpha channel of the source to our blend process. Yeah. It's pretty good. I just came home from work not too long ago. How about you? So yeah, that's it. As the title says, I want to do a more. Thank you very much. Have you been watching along, or are you new to the channel? Let's see. So yeah, we want a input system. Uh, oh, okay. How nice. Welcome then. Are you doing game development yourself, or let's just. We could always rearrange some of this stuff, but uh, let me see. Let's just remove this. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I don't think it's more complicated than something like Vulkan. Um, but yeah, it's definitely more low level. Um, after getting used to it and not really having worked in anything else but SLDL, isn't that what it's called? SLDL, I think. Uh, rendering. Oh, SDL. Um, well, I do think that once you get the hang of it, it's fairly all right. Mm. All right, so to build a input system, I took inspiration from Casey Moritari. I hope I didn't butcher your name. You're a hero to a lot of the game development community, but uh, I saw how you did pre-processing in the application layer for the input system. Um, um, well, I think it took around, well, Frank Luna has made a pretty good book, which I've been referencing here on the stream. This one, which kind of like gives you a nice introduction. I think I did work on doing DirectX12 for maybe 3 or 4 months until I started being able to do stuff with it. But yeah, I've certainly gotten better. Uh, Brian's Soft here is also really great, and 3D GEP. This guy, he definitely has this guy Jeremiah here do have a lot more complicated stuff. Um, he has something that I found really interesting. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, once you kind of like do the basic stuff and maybe see how other people's implement it from scratch, uh, you will get a fairly okay uh, grasp of it. For instance, this framework here he goes through is it's a bit technical, but once you kind of like get to a point where you understand what he's trying to build here, I think you understand most of DirectX12. And also developer utilities like uh, Insight for NVIDIA graphics cards, where you can uh, debug your graphics pipeline, and you can see information about what you end up uploading to the GPU, for instance, if your texture got uploaded correctly, if your vertex buffers get updated correctly, and so forth. So yeah, these tools, this basically works like the thing called render docs, I think. Render doc, which is open source. Um, uh, it it basically does the same thing, and I think it's for both NVIDIA and AMD. But that certainly helps out in the process of checking whether you actually are on the right track, especially when you need to debug something. It's helpful to know that you kind of like created the correct resources on the GPU, and yeah, your draw calls are correct, and even sometimes when nothing shows on the screen, the NVIDIA Insight, for example, can show you whether a polygon got drawn correctly. For instance, if this guy didn't show up on screen, I can do, for instance, something like this. Let me see if I can find him. Yeah, he has, I think he has 800 and as you can see here, I can see in NVIDIA Insight that all the vertices are correct, and the model actually is stored in sort of memory. Um, yeah, so tutorials alongside tools like this are really helpful for learning complicated graphics APIs. I can only imagine the same thing would go for Volcon. And yeah, you also need the debug layer enabled. Without that, you're kind of like blind to what's going on in case you have a bug. Yeah, that was a bit of a rant, but hopefully you or someone else will find it helpful. Um, no, there's really no reason why I couldn't use DirectX 11 and probably be fine. since I definitely do not need the performance in Vulkan or DirectX 12. But yeah, I kind of like, I simply like to understand how the hardware works and the software APIs interact with the hardware. So yeah, even though I don't need the performance, I even haven't optimized this, and it already runs with up to 5,000 frames per second. So uh, definitely no need for that. But yeah, I find it fun, so why not do it? And I mean, once you do something very complicated, you can always do something way easier. What are you working on yourself? Any game in particular or project in particular? I'll do the usual thing I do, where I create a class to create a CPP and header file, and then I'll delete. Well, maybe I'll recreate the class. Mm, yeah, maybe we do the class input system. Uh, haha, thank you. How nice. Let's see. So for our input here, we will of course create the same namespace. Yeah. So let's just skip the on update of the application and on draw for now. Right now, when our window gets messages from the operating system directly, meaning if Windows sends the window a message to either draw, resize, do something, it goes through this window procedure, which we've actually defined here in our initialization of the whole application. Let's see here. Uh, it's a pointer to the function here, which is a global function that kind of like processes the messages. We have developed a system where um, we kind of pass the message along and then get a pointer to our application, which we use to pass the message along until into a custom uh, Windows procedure call where we have access to our application information. Um, this is fine. Um, this is fine, although we could restructure it. I saw Casey Moritari kind of like prefetching the messages. The whole reason why I wanted to do this was because I wanted to be able to pass in the uh, handle to our window into our onCreate function. But let me see. If our for instance, whenever we do our run here, we kind of like prefetch uh, the messages. And if I do like this, I can actually see that I can find the handle to our window inside of it. So it would be entirely possible to do this somewhat differently, where we kind of like prefetch whatever information we want to process, and simply yeah, handle all this differently. Yeah, I think we will restructure it. I think we will restructure it. So the control flow would be that let's see, where's my entry point? Is it, I think it's here. Yeah, we could restructure the whole API a bit. Yeah, I think it's a bit more elegant. Oh, thank you very much. Hope everything goes well with whatever you need to do. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully I'll be seeing you around. Okay, so we would like this to be our Windows only message stream, and then we kind of want otherwise they will be in the archive surely, but have a great one. See you around. So this will be either when our own custom message handler won't do anything. The messages will be passed to this, or when the operating system overrules and sends our window a message, we will end up here. That is the whole purpose. All this stuff here is actually not needed. So if we refactor it, let's restructure this. And instead do a switch on the message where we will give it the default. Let's see, we don't need to break, but we will do it just for good measure and superstition. No. Now our window won't do anything. No, we will even have a crash. Anyway, so this will do simply something where we skip the messages along. Right now, we don't need to track anything specific from the operating system. Then we will kind of change this thing as well, where we probably also will change the name. Let's see, we will change it to a void function. Handle messages. And we will do the call. Let me just implement that in our application. Handle messages. This will be a void. Maybe we should just delete it actually. No, I need the code here. Handle messages. Let's see. Whoops. Handle messages. Let's just delete the Windows procedure here. And for now, we're gonna let's do something like this. So we can get up and running and then refactor whatever we need to refactor here. We will do the message handling here, where we will implement a switch. Hi there. Welcome. So we simply I'm pretty good. How about you? Whoops. Of course I need to and then break. Whoops. Yeah. So did I, not too long ago. Let's see. It's just like that sometimes. Let's change this to a 0. And we can do this. All right, let's do a debug break here. Okay. Okay, let's see. A CSA? Could you help me? Ah, okay. Is it a lot of work? Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Do we call that? Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, maybe we actually do need the whole thing we implemented before. Uh, because maybe these things get called before the application even is able to. For instance, if we put a breakpoint where we uh, yeah, this might be created before see, first gets called before. Maybe did I delete the breakpoint? Yeah, I did. Um, well, first gets called before we even reach this breakpoint. So we will probably never be in a state where the window gets the message uh, beforehand. So yeah, I guess yeah, okay, we will store the application as before, but we will change a bit on how the messages are handled. We will do switch message, and we will do case this, and we will do what we did here. And then we will break, and then we will do another case, create, and of course do a break there, and we will do this, and we will ask the app to do on create with the handle to our window. And then we will do the default case where we will return the default window procedure. I guess this will be better, won't it? Do we not end up in here or what? Uh, and do we not end up in here? No, we do not. New create. Well, why do we not end up in here? Because whenever I pass the create and see, just create, just. Now let me close all of this so I don't have to scroll. Right now we do not need them. Wait and see. Well, do we end up here? That we do. Well, that's just weird. The handle gets stored. The on create is the handle stored. After that, nope. Well, the order of these messages Let's see, do I ever end up here afterwards? New stuff. Let me see. No. And our run. Do we even pass them along? Default. No. We do not pass anything along. That is not good. Let me see. Um, we can always revert to the back to the old system, but I don't think it's great. Why do we never end up there? Do we ever end up here? No, we do not. Let's see. So we initialize our application, running. Well, do we ever? Yeah, everything got messed up after I did this change. Let's see, do we end up here? No, we do not. Do we end up here? Yeah, so the window doesn't get created anymore. Why doesn't it get created anymore? We call the NCC create, and then nothing kind of happens. And in the, let's just revert back to the old code here. Let me just see. Okay, maybe it's because I never end up maybe it's because I never end up in a state where we end up here. Default. Let's try that. Let's try not doing that. Man. Back in the olden days, it's like let's disable that. Well, it doesn't really matter because we aren't arriving at that point anyway. Hmm. We could do something like this. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah. It's because we don't pass the messages along. Um, yeah, that's the bug. Let's see. Let's disable the default here and see what happens. Create just, create and see. Let's see if we kind of like disable this case here. Do we ever get to? No, we do not end up in our own message loop. Let's just do the default message. Yeah, so we end up in a situation where this gets called. There we go. Everything works as before. So now we do the exact same thing. We store the pointer to the calling application, and then whenever we create, we make sure we call the onCreate function. It's because the operating system passes the message along outside the application. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, this even get called? Do stuff. It doesn't even get called. It's also passed along outside the operating system. Let's just move it then. Would we ever get to a case VM destroy? Did we ever? No, we will never reach it. But if we do case key down, is it sys key? Let's see. Let me look it up. Windows message key down, VM key down. Let's see. Print in did something. Hopefully it will grab this message. It does, as you can see in the console. So it definitely registers the input. Everything else is just either passed into the Windows procedure here. Since these methods are and welcome tapped. I didn't realize you followed the channel. Is your name by chance related to Magic the Gathering? And welcome to the people following along on YouTube. Yeah, so the problem was that the operating system decides that it wants to pass these messages not through the regular message loop, but directly to the Windows procedure, which means that whenever we kind of handle our messages, we will never see the messages that get sent outside, or rather directly to the window. So yeah. Let's do case VM syskey key down VM sys key up. Now we have our input detection here. I even think we can click on. No. Maybe we want to do case VM mouse. What do we call them? Mouse click message in 32. VM let's see. Let's see. Left click. Yeah, so both when we click and release. Let's do right click. So it doesn't register when I click or type anywhere else, but if hello, welcome back. Did you get your stuff done? But whenever I click on the window or push buttons when I'm active on the window, you see that it registers a message. This is way better than what we did previously. Since right now we simply check whether the mouse or the keyboard keys got pushed, clicked, or whatever, and that means that the application responds to even when the window is not in focus, which is kind of annoying. All right. So let's see. The W param for the mouse here stores whether, yeah, welcome. Okay, so for the mouse, the W and L param um, stores information about the states of different buttons, and that also relates to the mouse buttons. But let's set up the keys. The previous key state is stored in the lparam 30th bit. And the transition state, which is always 0 for the key down. Let's see, key down. Can we look up the keyboard input? Messages, get hotkey, blah, blah, blah. Key down, key up. If we compare, the transition state is always 1 for up. So if the previous state is 1, the button was up, or rather released. If it's let's see, if it's down, so this is the opposite. If it's the 30th bit is 0, then the key was up before, meaning that we have a button press. And the transition state is something that fluctuates. So it's 0 for the key down and 1 for the key up. Okay. So we have to process this information here. Let's see. And whoops, let's see. The W param contains the virtual key code, which is basically an integer value. So we can set our key value to our message W param, and we can cast it to an unsigned integer just to make sure that our system understands it. We can check if the key was down in the last frame, because the previous state will hold 1 if it the key kind of gets released. We could also look at the repeat pattern, but we don't want to do that. Let me see, where did I got distracted. Sorry about that. There we go. And if the value was 1, the key was down in the last frame. Therefore, we know that we can do a Boolean called was down, where we simply check the L param of the message, and we do a bit shifted 1, where we simply compare the 30th bit of this message. It will be 1. If the key was down before the message got sent, and it will therefore result in a 1 here. So if this is not 0, we would simply, let me see. Okay, I need to parenthesize this, I think. We would know that this key was down the last time a message in terms of keyboard input got sent. And we can check the current state also by accessing the 31-bit of the message. And we can do the same thing. Is down. And then we check the L parameter again, and then the 31th bit. And let's see here. If we got sent the key down message, meaning that we pressed a button, this will be 0. Now we can compare. If was down is unequal to is down, we have a button press. Button press or release. Change in state. So let's test that. Whoops, it doesn't like when I pause the physics engine too long. So if I press a button, I press and a release, and we get two changes of state. One when we press down and one when we release. If I just, hi, welcome. Yeah, so now we know when a button gets pressed and when it gets released. This means that we have some information that we can pass along into an input system, which will keep track of our data. Here, we could of course do the same thing for the mouse and rather the mouse buttons. Let me just disable this because I don't want to get messages about this anymore. Anyway, we could simply just tell ourselves that, well, we got some input and we want to pass it along into our input system, which will process the data. Casey does a bit more pre-computation of the information. I think I just want the raw data, and I'll probably just send a packet with this information to our input system. Yeah. Also, I would like to change the way this call gets handled, but yeah, it doesn't really matter much. It doesn't really matter that much. How are you? If you're still here with us. Yeah, so basically we would like a, let's see. Well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. So this is basically our input polling system, or, or rather, should I say, uh, our baseline for a input system. We do data collection on the messages, and inside our input system, we'd probably want some packet to be sent. We would like a struct key state where we take in the unsigned in key. Hey, Boolean was down. And the Boolean is down. Usually I don't do this. We will do false, false. And our application will have an input layer. I actually think this will be included here. And we simply create a packet of information. A input key state. Key state. Where we simply assign our values. Was down. Let's just assign this directly. No need to create a separate value for that anymore. And then we do an is down data point. There we go. We could do similar processing for the mouse, but we will figure that out later. All right. The next thing is that we will well, hopefully this won't result in things being too slow. Maybe we simply just do a structure that holds our different key states. Well, it probably won't matter too much. Well, the problem is kind of like well, I kind of like just contemplate how to do things in my mind. I've built different applications um, for home use, and yeah, so usually I don't need to search that much anymore. Sometimes I have to Google a lot of different stuff. I mean, like unique pointers kind of like got the best of me during the last stream. So we process this key state. I'm considering two options here. We could do a procedural input system and store the data on the application, or we could do a class-based singleton system which holds our data. So basically either the application handles the input storage, or a separate singleton class holds the data and some of the methods. In the first version, we only call update every frame on the application, and it does its thing. Here we do it on the singleton. Update means simply swapping two buffers, the last frame state and the current frame state, and even yeah, maybe providing information, more elaborate information on the key states. I'm unsure what actually would work out better in terms of the cache. It might not matter at all. Um, it might not matter at all. It might not matter at all. Okay, we will just do the singleton pattern because it's fairly fast to implement. I can't do it inline, I think. Anyway, let's see. We have a private input system pointer instance. Is it not a pointer? I think it's a pointer. Let me see. I did it in the UI system. Is it a pointer? Maybe not. No, it's just a static instance. Um, of course, we need a input system pointer here instead. There we go. And in our CPP file, we will instantiate this. Oh, not in the UI, in this. We will do like this input system. Allocate some memory for that, created whenever the application gets initialized during runtime initialization. All right. And then we could do something like, well, the singleton pattern is there. Let's separate this a bit. We could do something like void process key state, and we could do a key const key state reference key state. We could also do it simply static. Yeah. And then disable the getter. Then we have our input system. Process key state, and we pass in our key state here. All right, everything compiles. Now we get a key state passed into this function, and we can process it. So basically, we will do a double buffer system where we have the current frame buffer and then the last frame buffer. Yeah, so we need a buffer of key states. We could do a predefined struct key state buffer where we could store a key state array. For instance, 8 buttons that we update. We could do that. But do we want to do that? Maybe we don't need to store this information, all of it. Maybe we don't want to do that. Because, I mean, well, the key might just be some integer or field internally where we know the usable keys. Maybe we want an internal kind of key state. For instance, you could do something like, if we just predefine something like a key state internal, we could do input state where we have key state internal a key, for instance, key state internal B key, and so forth. And you could always change this stuff later on. I'm unsure whether that would be a nice way to do it. Well, I think that I prefer to yeah, what do I want? So this is going to be a shooter. Where you should be able to maybe we want some processing, for instance. Do we want to yeah, we could process information, for instance. If a key was down last frame, how many frames does it take before it's being held? We could also simply just do, is the button being pushed? Then do something. Maybe we want something like something that happens when the button got pushed and then released. This is a basic check. Is it down? This is a basic check. Was it down and for how many frames or whatever was it being down? Or maybe do a time accumulator that kind of like stores how long it's been down. Um, maybe we have a one tab. For instance, the E button in Half-Life games, if you press the E button, you kind of expect it to do something, maybe when you press the button, but not when you release it, or maybe even not when you hold it down. You could always ask the system, was it down last frame and is it down now? And then you would know you have a button press. Because even when we skip several frames ahead, if you kind of like held it down just a tiny bit because the frame rate is too high, you would know that it was down during the last frame, which means that it's either a button hold or yeah, it may be a button hold or uh, yeah, it's definitely not a new press of any kind, which means that you simply get a fairly easy way of polling, is this a button push or is the button being held down? Because you could simply do something whenever it's down. We don't care whether it's a single button push. And you could do a comparison to the previous frame if there is a change in state and it results in the button being down. Well, then you know something, you could allow something else to happen. So yeah, so I'm thinking you could also do button press counting or something like that. Well, hmm, okay, we will do a very, very simple system here where we simply do something like saved key state, and we will use this for now. Um, then we will do a table-based mapping. where we eventually could change yeah, we can definitely change this setup later on, but we will do some stuff here where we simply store the was down. Um, yeah. Let me see, just a minute. Yeah. And we simply do a vector of saved key states where we do last frame key states, and we do a this frame key states. We will have a initializer or rather constructor where we will where we will reserve memory for these bad boys down here, and we will do a static void update um, do we actually call it update? Because we will be getting different messages, we will be filling out our current frame state key states, and we will then be let me see, I may have gotten a bit distracted. Um, because maybe we only want to do Whenever we're kind of done drawing, we want to store the key state. The updating is kind of like handled through the message system. The message system passes the packet along, it processes it, and it gets updated. Yeah, actually I think this onDraw update might end up being collapsed. Yeah, let's call it save state. Save frame state. Where we simply, in our application here, call the input system, save frame state. We simply do something like last frame key state is equal to, let's move the this frame key state of course like that. So whenever our run stuff is done, we simply save this frame's key state, move it over to the old buffer, and then we simply set the clear. Well, this does a heap allocation every time. I'd prefer not to actually. The reason why I'm not just storing a boolean here. Hello. No, I'm sorry. I won't have time to do a live stream tomorrow, but probably a bit. I'll stream a bit during some of the upcoming holidays. Um, but that sounds exciting, dude. So I'd like to actually use the same memory here. I would like to use the same memory because I don't want to reallocate every time Um, the problem is that I kind of like suck at editing. I don't mind doing tutorials. I really suck at editing, so um, I could easily do a video where I talk a lot or show some different stuff on how to do stuff. But yeah, I would end up not like feeling like going through a lot of video content to kind of like edit it. Um, I think some of the first videos in this series are not really a tutorial, but they are more like bite-sized and maybe something that you could follow along in, but yeah. Well, yeah. Um, Let me consider it. What would you like a tutorial about? Anything in particular? Yeah, but I mean, like, I I see the need for a DirectX tutorial, but uh, what would you like the result to be? Like, draw a triangle, a 3D model, or uh, what would be the kind of like goal of it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me think about it. I could definitely upload an unedited video about some of it, but yeah, I kind of feel bad, like, uploading a lot of video material that's totally unedited and like putting the tutorial um, slab on it. But yeah, I guess I could consider it. Maybe I'll do it as a live stream. Um, and then just move it to the videos part of YouTube, and then yeah, people can also join in and ask different questions and see if I can answer them. Yeah, I could do. Yeah, I think I could do that. That would probably only take a couple of hours or something. And what time zone are you in? European or American or Asian or? Oh, okay, then we're approximately in the same time zone. So, or I'd say we're in the same time zone, probably with a few hours of maximum difference. Okay, I'm in Scandinavia, so yeah, I think that will be 1 hour maximum. Yeah, there's no difference in terms of Bosnia or Balkan. Oh, thank you. That's too much. Whenever I know when to do it, I'll try to schedule it here on YouTube if I can figure out how to do that. Um, so that you'll know. I just realized that since um, yeah, I'm on Twitch. I do prefer streaming on YouTube, but I do simultaneous streaming here on Twitch and YouTube. But I definitely prefer um, to use YouTube, and I have my video archive there. And yeah, I do all different videos on YouTube. I also did some machine learning tutorials, and I'll definitely go back to them eventually. Right now, this project is taking up some time though. Um, I also have a Discord server. It's just a totally basic one, but yeah. In terms of this input system here, I realized that um, sure thing, man. I yeah, I have to manage a full-time job on this side, so uh, I'll definitely have to take my time. I'm working full-time as a health professional, so but yeah, I think we could do a basic uh, get started with your first DirectX12 application kind of stream slash video. if someone appears somewhere who would like to edit it, I can even supply the video footage and so forth. So if anyone watches this in the future, feel free to reach out if you want to edit the stuff. I think I'll do the stream/tutorial only here on YouTube since yeah, it's the worst, man. And yeah, it takes so long time, and I prefer just to like talk for ages and mess around with coding, and then someone else would do the editing. But yeah, since I have a job, I'm not expecting to become a full-time YouTuber anytime soon anyway. All right. I think I have a solution here for my problem, because if I use vectors, I'd end up in a situation where I can't control the memory allocations myself. So I will do this the kind of like um, manual way. I'll do an array where we do last frame key states, where we will start out with a null pointer, and we will do current key states. Let's just do some fairly whoops, fairly understandable naming. So there we go. I've created this constructor. I will simply do a heap allocation. For each of these. And this will get set to a new let's do 10. And this will also do 10. And then we will, of course, delete the memory again. So let's see. Well, you might. I've heard that the debugging interface of Vulkan is really bad in comparison, which means that you'll have a hard time debugging whenever things go wrong. But I've never worked with Vulkan, so it's only what I've heard. I think the guy called the Cherno did a video about why he didn't like working with Vulkan for that exact reason. But yeah, what do I know? I really don't know. Let's do It depends on what you define as the renderer, but yeah, you would have to do the same thing in Vulkan though. So there's no difference there. They are both low-level APIs, but um, yeah, they're highly similar. There are some things that are different between them, but mostly they are alike. It's more like what kind of terminology they use and some small differences in features, but yeah, they're both low level, kind of like rough API calls, or what do you call it? Like they're simple in terms of the capabilities of each API component. So you have to do a lot of implementation in terms of coupling the different API pieces together with logic and control flow and so forth. But yeah, you have to do everything from scratch in terms of both Vulkan and DirectX 12. Um, and if you by that mean, no, definitely not. OpenGL doesn't have a better performance capability than DirectX 12 or Vulkan for that matter. Um, they might be improving on this in future versions of OpenGL, but um, currently um, DirectX 12 and Vulkan for that matter uh, allow you to do your own multi-threading and uh, control of the whole graphics pipeline. It's a lot more code in comparison, but you have full control over most parts of the rendering pipeline, and therefore you can always do specific optimizations. And yeah, OpenGL uses the driver more, or have pre implemented some um, yeah, what do you call it? Um, some API calls that kind of like do stuff the OpenGL way, and it's not every case that is optimal for that. And I think multi-threading is way harder in OpenGL. The advantage of OpenGL is obviously the ease of implementation in comparison, and the speed with which you can develop applications. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, if you do Vulkan, you can do almost every platform, even mobile, I think. Yeah, I think Android supports Vulkan. So yeah, I think DirectX recently got um, uh, implemented in Metal, so I think Mac will have DirectX in the future. Yeah, but for game development, I will only be targeting Windows platforms myself, and you could always port it afterwards to Vulkan if you wanted to. The change of the rendering pipeline from DirectX 12 to Vulkan won't be very big, so you could probably even use a lot of your shader code. All right. Well, I'm not gonna do it in the global settings for now. Input system. Max key. I don't think so. I know the Xbox of course does, but I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Yeah, so if you want cross-platform support, I'd go with Vulkan. Or you could just start out learning the basics of DirectX12 and then start learning Vulkan. You probably won't be wasting your time since they are kind of like similar in terms of being low-level performance-oriented APIs. Uh, okay, so we simply create our buffers on the heap, and um, we simply do like this during the last frame state. We simply set okay, yeah, I have to do the instance, of course. And we swap the pointer, and then we zero the memory of the, wait a minute, no, we do a mem copy into our old buffer here, where we do and then we zero the memory. Let's see. Maybe we, yeah, the swap needs a temporary. So we swap by storing that. No, storing the old buffer and then setting the old buffer to the new buffer. The difference is that the DirectX 11 uses the driver to kind of like try to predict different API calls, which means it's not as performance oriented and it's a bit more simple. So that's the major difference. If you start out by learning DirectX 11, you would have probably an easier time understanding DirectX 12. I've never done DirectX 11 myself. I just went straight into DirectX 12. But yeah, I hear that that is what people recommend. Okay, so the um, last frame key state gets swapped to what was the uh, current frame key state, and then we set the current frame key state. Sorry, can't speak today. Um, to the old one, and then for good measure, we do zero out the current key state. There we go. So this is our buffer swap. There's probably a function for that, but I just do it manually. All right. Uh, then we want to do a switch statement here on the key state key, maybe. Yeah, you might be frustrated. At least I was after the first hour or so, but it gets better. It gets way better. And in case you do that, wait for the tutorial video. Okay, let's do a case A. Just for good measure. And see if our packet arrives how it's supposed to. It does. Great stuff. And even if I enable caps lock, I think. Yeah, it doesn't care. Okay, let's do a table here. Input table. Um, let's do W. It's going to be 0. This is going to be 1. A is going to be 2. 3. D is going to be 3. Um, W. Let's do the same order. S 80. So this is our mapping in terms of our array. Thank you. Um, well, I also try to help myself because when I do something like this, in the future, I would like to know where in this array things are put, and I'll probably forget it. Um, but yeah, you should definitely remember to comment things when they are not obvious, either for yourself in the future or if you're working in a team. Let's see. So we need to process the key state here. And we could simply just set it to um, well, we could set it to just our down state, which means that whenever a button gets pressed, but then if it gets released, it's not graded. We will get a packet from the application anyway. Uh, if that happens, let's do let's do uh, let's do something like, let me just think a bit. Mm, let me see. So we have maybe we just set the save key state for that specific key as R is down, because it will change whenever we release the button anyway. So yeah, using our input table here, this frame 0, 1. Let's see, of course, m instance was down is equal to the key state is down. So now we simply, for this frame, whenever we interact with the W button, we set the appropriate memory location to whatever value is appropriate. If the button is down, well, then this will be true. If it's not, then it will be false. We will know from our last frame key states array whether it was down last frame or if this is a new situation. Yeah, so as a basic thing here, we will just try to get an example. And we will do a simple polling technique here, const unsigned int, where we are able to ask the input system, is this key down? And we will just use the same switch here because the key will be in a int based. Well, it's an integer, but when it's cast to a char, it's corresponding to that specific character. As you can see here, this is 65, this is 83, this is 87, 68, and it also counts for the lower case scenario. And then we just return our key state for and we of course don't need a break here. And I think switches are faster than a long series of if statements. I also think they are easier to read, so therefore we will use those. Anyway, now we have a basic setup. Right now we can only ask our system whether the key is down. We could also do static bool was key key pressed. I also gotta go do some cooking. In a short while, hopefully we will be done with the input stuff here. I think this is fine. We do not have a default case. But then we want to if it was down and the last keyframes, oh my god, I hate that name. The last frame key state was unlike this one, we have a button press. So because if the button is down and it wasn't down in the last frame, we must have a key press. If it's not down, well, we will just release the button and the rest of this statement is not relevant. And let's see, we swap these. And let's test it out in our application here. Let's see, does everything compile? Well, everything compiles. Now let me see. Okay, during our application step here, in our update loop, We would like to, let me close off all of the physics stuff. We don't need that. We will do, well, we will do input polling as something of the first stuff that we do. We can see we do it here, but yeah, I'll of course, yeah, I know. Um, but thank you. Let's try. We do some input polling here for the A key, and um, if it's down during this frame, we will do something like yell because we're happy. I don't know. Whoops, I of course need to do something like this. And we can also do something like was key pressed, and let's do that with the D. And let's print here. It was pressed. All right, let's try that. So I move the console over here so we can see what happens. Okay. Well, I'm not supposed to be able to hold down the button, I think. At least on the key press. This is fine. I mean, um, yeah, I think there's a mistake in, let's see. It doesn't, and does it forget? Hmm. Hmm. Let's just print some debug information here. Test. What button did we use? We used the D and A. This is for the D. And old state. Let's see. Of course, need these. Why do we? Okay. It was pressed. It was pressed. It was pressed. What if I hold it down? Yeah, I'm holding it down here. Let's see. Why does it forget? Well, oh, it's because I zero the memory, isn't it? Or what? Huh. Whenever we process the packet, so the first time we press it down, it's supposed to stay down, but we're not processing a packet every time. Let's just log that. Print packet. And let's disable this for now. Yeah, okay. Do we have a problem in our application layer? Is down, was down. Let's see, maybe I swap these. Key down, message. The previous state, no, that is correct. So is down is always 0. If it's true, yeah, we process is down. The packets gets processed anyway. Maybe we only want to process the packet whenever there's a change in state. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. If was down unequal to is down, of course we need to. Let's try that. We only process the packet if there's a change, and all right, it was pressed. Well, it never resets. That's the problem. It never resets. That's not nice. I mean, I think it should do the update. All right now it registers whenever there's a change, but it doesn't register when I hold down the button. And when we process the packet, okay, maybe we want to do more processing here. And well, why doesn't it stay down, so to speak? Let's try to step into this part. Oh, it's not the right part. It's the A key. Let's try stepping into this part of the... What? I haven't pressed anything. Let's see, maybe it's because I do test. And then we want to step into this. Why? Well, I haven't pressed anything yet, which is weird. Oh, it's because I pull. Yeah, okay. Okay. Anyway, let's see what the default state is. This frame key states. It wasn't down. Let's see, let's step into it if it was down. Just for testing. So we would like a breakpoint if this ever gets true. Alright, it gets true. Let's see. And let's just grab this into Not this one, last one was down. Just so that it's is in the locals. Let's see. Was down, false. True. So I think maybe half a year ago. Anything particular you are curious about? I think, let me see, when was the first video? It was actually only 3 months ago. Maybe, yeah, a bit more, 4 months ago. So this should basically just oh well, I guess because we zero out the states here, when this only gets, now I understand. Why, thank you. Well, I think the last month, the subscriber count kind of doubled. So yeah, I've been having more traction on things, but well, I think yeah, it'll just take some time. But yeah, I did the first game development videos I did 2 months ago, maybe 2.5 months ago, and the first machine learning videos I did in the middle of September. So yeah, that's 3 months ago. So it hasn't been that long. It, yeah, it's definitely gotten better, but I think yeah, some better edited videos and maybe some tutorial videos would probably gain more traction. Okay, the problem is that we reset our key states every frame. So this means that once we only process the keyframes, key states whenever they change, it means that every frame it gets zeroed out. This means that we are perfectly fine registering um, um, button presses, but we will never know if the we will never know whether the button actually was pressed this frame, because yeah, we simply have no information for this frame since it doesn't get a packet from the message handler. So that's a problem. Um, yeah, probably. I'm not sure it's a lot of money anyway. Um, but yeah, maybe I could use some of that money to buy a better microphone or something. All right, so we have to decide how to solve that problem because I guess it's fine only processing key state changes. Maybe we don't want to zero out uh, our memory. What happens if, well, it was pressed, it doesn't, now it just kind of like bugs out. Yeah, so zeroing out doesn't help. Let's see. It's fine at registering single button presses, but held down buttons is something that I have to solve because I mean, if we change this to was key down and we ask if it was down last frame, I think we might end up in a different situation. Yeah. Although, no, it won't change anything because we swap the buffers. So eventually it will get overwritten. Yeah. Yeah. I have to figure that out, but I'm starting to get really, really hungry. So I can't really focus anymore. Okay. Let's swap this back. Let's see. We need to implement that. Yeah, but thank you. But I'll be shutting down the stream for now, maybe for the day. I need to go do some cooking and get myself fed. And yeah, it's been a long day, so I might postpone the last bit of this input system here for another day. Yeah, I think I need to rework some of this because I'm not sure it works as intended. Uh, yeah, but thanks for hanging out. It was really nice having you. Um, and I'll definitely try to advertise whenever the the tutorial when the tutorial video goes up. Um, yeah, but once again, thanks for hanging out, and no problem, man. Hopefully, I'll see you around. Have a nice one. Bye bye. Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you. All right.